FBI agents in the interview said on election day to another FBI agent, "You should know that I'm with her." Now, her was Clinton, right?
Correct.
How do you feel about that?
Very concerned.
Okay, eventually very concerned gets to be enough already. I'm glad you found what you found, Mr. Horowitz. I'm not buying that the Clinton email investigation was on the up and up.
I'm not buying it either. Still think political bias didn't play a role in the FBI's decisions? Now, don't forget, at the center of all of this is FBI Trump-hating agent Peter Strzok. Now, he's now being subpoenaed by the House Judiciary Committee in order to better determine why the FBI and the DOJ withheld many of his anti-Trump texts. We still haven't gotten them all. Remember, he was the lead FBI agent in the Hillary Clinton investigation. He's the one that vowed to stop a Trump presidency in a text with his girlfriend, Lisa Page. And according to the IG report, Page was a high-ranking FBI attorney who was used by Andrew McCabe. Yeah, that Andrew McCabe, of course, to bypass the FBI's chain of command, and he got to monitor the Clinton investigation. We have long reported about McCabe's Democratic bias. Next, we knew that Peter Strzok, Andrew Weissman, Jeannie Ray, those names sound familiar? And so many of all these anti-Trump Democratic donors all tapped the same people to finish the exoneration of Hillary and put the fix in, and then tapped by Robert Mueller for his Trump-Russia witch hunt. Now, in fact, many of those same agents that cleared Hillary, they were then immediately appointed to investigate Trump. Now, the very agents just spewing hatred about Trump, vowing to stop his presidency, mocking Trump supporters, the same people tapped to investigate Trump, a move even questioned by the Inspector General, which means that the entire Russia investigation from the get-go was as corrupt as the Hillary cover-up, and it was the case from day one. Now, there's a very definition itself right there of what I've been saying, a two-tiered justice system, no equal justice under the law or equal application of our laws. Now, if true justice had prevailed, if Hillary Clinton got indicted as she should have in the fall of 2016, the electoral process would have been turned on its head. The deep state's choice for president would be out of the race. Trump would actually be the president without any of this Mueller garbage that he's had to deal with almost his entire presidency. And that's why Hillary Clinton, she got the white glove treatment by these investigators, openly rooting for her to win the election. President Trump, everyone associated with him, they got the sledgehammer thrown down by the very same people that gave Hillary a pass. And tonight we're also learning James Comey is under investigation for mishandling classified information. Remember, he intentionally leaked his personal notes about conversations he had with the president. That's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. In order to set the ball rolling for the anti-Trump special counsel, his buddy, Robert Mueller, to begin his investigation or witch hunt. And the IG also found, as FBI Director Comey was insubordinate and totally mishandled the Clinton investigation. Now, legal scholar Jonathan Turley, a Democrat, he's now saying these findings in the IG report exonerate Trump from any obstruction of justice charges, which means it should all end and end now. Take a look.
To me, the obstruction claim involving Comey was always difficult, but after the IG, it's become virtually incomprehensible because the IG said that Comey was insubordinate, that he deviated from policies, he violated FBI policies. All those are a good reason to fire James Comey. And so the problem that's going to come up for the critics of President Trump is that this dog just won't hunt when you've got both the IG and the Deputy Attorney General saying he deserved to be fired. You can't assume everything against him. There's another interesting aspect here. If Mueller was really going after obstruction based on Comey, then Rosenstein would have to recuse himself. Rosenstein said that if Mueller told him that he was a witness, he would remove himself. He hasn't done that, which makes me think it's one of two things. Either Mueller's ignoring conflicts of interest, or he's not seriously pursuing that angle.
Now, meanwhile, President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is calling for an investigation into the investigators, something we have been discussing for a long time. Take a look.
He was one of 5 individuals outlined in this IG report as potentially facing disciplinary action. Are you calling for something sharper than that?
Oh, yeah, you're darn right. Disciplinary action when he's making comments like that, not part of the probe. He started it. He was with it for its first couple of months. Mueller kept him on. So how much did he infect that probe with his own very, very extreme positions? I don't know, but I sure want to find out before I go forward. I mean, this is a case where it's crying out for someone to investigate the investigators.
Absolutely. And even deep state sycophant turned CNN fake news pundit Jim Clapper, he's now ready for Mueller to wrap all this up. Frankly, he likely knows that he and Brennan will eventually be exposed. Take a look.
I think the overarching point here is that this whole issue has got to come to resolution. At some point, Special Counsel Mueller and his team, I hope, will wrap up the investigation and clear the air one way or the other whether or not there was a collusion with the Russians. This is a cloud that's hanging over the country and certainly hanging over this presidency, and I do hope that happens.
Oh, change your heart? Now, we're going to have a lot more on Mueller and the IG report in just a moment. First, let's turn to a story that is causing a 5-alarm fire in the halls of the mainstream Destroy Trump media surrounding reports that the children of illegal immigrants are being separated from their parents upon entering the country illegally. Look, let's start and be very clear. Nobody wants children who are safely in the custody of their parents separated. Nobody wants that. But truth matters and facts matter. Earlier today, DHS Secretary Kristen Nielsen responded to these claims. She set the record straight with important information that the media is all too happy, as usual, to ignore. Take a look.
So let's just start with a few numbers and facts. So in the last 3 months, we have seen illegal immigration on our southern border exceed 50,000 people each month, multiples over each month last year. Since this time last year, there has been a 325% increase in unaccompanied alien children and a 435% increase in family units entering the country illegally. Over the last 10 years, there has been a 1,700% increase in asylum claims, resulting in asylum backlog today in our country of 600,000 cases. Since 2013, the United States has admitted more than 500,000 illegal immigrant minors and family units from Central America, most of whom today are at large in the United States. At the same time, large criminal organizations such as MS-13 have violated our borders and gained a deadly foothold within the United States. This entire crisis, just to be clear, is not new. It's been occurring and expanded over many decades, but currently it is the exclusive product of loopholes in our federal immigration laws that prevent illegal immigrant minors and family members from being detained and removed to their home countries.
Then Secretary Nielsen went on to explain why, in some rare cases, the children of illegal immigrants are separated from their parents. Here's what she said.
DHS does have a responsibility to protect minors, and in that case as well, we will only separate the family if we cannot determine there is a familiar relationship, if the child may be at risk with the parent or legal guardian, or if the parent or legal guardian is referred for prosecution.
And Nielsen also made an important comparison to how the government treats our own citizens. Oh, important. Take a watch.
Let's be clear, if an American were to commit a crime anywhere in the United States, they would go to jail and they would be separated from their family. This is not a controversial idea.
And finally, Secretary Nielsen reminded everyone in the media that this is nothing new and took place in previous administrations. Yeah, facts matter. Take a look.
The last administration, the Obama administration, the Bush administration, all separated families at the, they absolutely did. They did, their rate was less than ours, but they absolutely did do this. This is not new.
Minors, there's no doubt about that, but
they separated families.
A very important point. Remember the photo showing immigrant children in cages? Some of the media first attributed that picture to the Trump administration. And it actually occurred, of course, during the Obama administration. In fact, the Obama administration, not the Trump administration, they're the ones that started a policy of actually detaining minors younger than 18 for months. But the media, of course, didn't report, barely yawned. In fact, one Democrat actually did admit that Obama was able to somehow keep his actions at the border very quiet. Wonder why?
So under the Obama administration, there was, according to the Washington Post reporting, a surging number of unaccompanied minors being apprehended at the border. In 2014, there were nearly 70,000, according to the Post reporting.
In many ways, and I think I don't know what image you're using, but I released some of those photos because it was kept very quiet under the Obama administration. There were large numbers of people coming in. The Obama administration was trying to keep this quiet.
Of course, no outrage from the media over Obama, but with Trump, it's a totally different story. And of course, there's another factor here. They want a distraction from all the lies they have been peddling to you for the last 18 months. And as I said earlier, no one likes the idea of separating any child from any parent. But this issue has been in the hands of Congress. And right now, the whole issue can be fixed. Every law can be changed. And if they did their job, it would happen. It is the law. Democrats, of course, prefer to make it a political issue. They want to win in 2018. They want their power back. Now, those on the left only want open borders, which means this issue probably is not going away. They need to come to the table, agree to a serious immigration reform, including the construction of the wall. They already had the president concede on DACA, but they prefer to demagogue rather than fix the issue. Sad reality. All right, joining us now for more on our top story, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, investigative reporter, author. It's out soon. July is coming, The Russian Hoax. There he is, Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst. Greg, let's start with the hearings today. With what, as you dig deeper into the IG report, all you see are all these Trump-hating lead investigators. And then the very same people, they put the fix it and rig what would have put any other American in jail with Hillary, and then they immediately go start the Russia investigation on Trump. Does that then disqualify and put into doubt from the get-go the Mueller witch hunt?
Oh, it absolutely does. And as Jonathan Turley pointed out, there's no possible way that Mueller can pursue obstruction of justice against President Trump, because both the IG and the acting attorney general have said Comey richly deserved to be fired. But today's best moment really happened on the cross-examination by Senator Lindsey Graham, when he said, "I'm not buying this, Inspector General. The bias at the FBI was so severe, so pervasive, it had to influence the decision to clear Hillary Clinton." And he pointed to the exoneration statement that Comey initially found Clinton guilty under the Espionage Act. But somebody changed the language ever so slightly, and that emendation allowed Comey to exonerate Clinton when, in fact, she had committed a crime.
You know, the swamp answer, Sarah, as it relates to, we're not going to second guess prosecutorial discretion, as they call it here. Well, tell that to Christian Saucier, because he did far less and he spent a year in jail. And there are many other examples that we pointed out on the program here. And what's interesting is he won't make that determination. But then the entire report, just example after example of blatant corruption and bias by the top people involved in this, and how much they love Hillary, protect her, and then the same people take a sledgehammer and literally try and destroy Trump from the get-go.
Sean, I think this was such an important hearing today, and Greg's right on the money. I think Senator Graham gave the best cross-examination ever, and there were a number of things that came out of that. That exoneration, that change in language, actually appears to be the insurance policy that Peter Strzok was talking about with Lisa Page, his paramour, in those text messages. Remember, they were looking for an insurance policy. In another text message, and in that same text message, let me go back to that, they talk about Andy's office, Andy McCabe. So it would be Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. And the most important question was the one that Senator Graham asked. Was Andrew McCabe in that meeting with Peter Strzok and Lisa Page? And we need to know that from Strzok and Page. Those two need to be interviewed, and then Andrew McCabe needs to be interviewed again. Because if that's the case, if he was in that meeting, this is the most frightening example of FBI power since Edgar Hoover, and Americans should be terrified of it because they were rigging an election.
And that's the whole point here. That's why it's the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal ever. The similarities, though, in terms of of the Mueller investigation and the Hillary rigged investigation are eerie in this way, Greg Jarrett, in as much as you have all of these same people that have been exposed here. And then you look at Jeannie Ray and Andrew Weissman and all the Democratic donors. It's the same corruption that will only be exposed down the line, although we've known for a long time, in Robert Mueller's witch hunt. It's no different.
It sort of makes you wonder, are the only people who actually work at the FBI Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Andy McCabe, and James Comey? And after all, they commandeered this case to Main Justice away from the field office. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to control it. And it was also being controlled by the Obama White House. That is abundantly clear. And yes, Mueller assembled a team of partisans, some of whom were also in on the Hillary Clinton fix.
Yeah. All right. All of this is now, this is the beginning of the process. And a lot of these people are in deep trouble. All right, more analysis of the congressional hearing on the IG report and Senator Hatch laid into the FBI director next. Newt Gingrich coming up.
Investigations in the Bureau's history, and they were insubordinate, grossly unprofessional in their communications, and even untruthful. So let's not pretend like this was some one-off problem. There is a serious problem with the culture at FBI headquarters. Your statement last week seemed to suggest we shouldn't worry too much about the events detailed in the Inspector General report because the report focuses on a small group of individuals and events. Well, I think that's exactly backwards. If we can look at only one or two investigations and find this much bias and unprofessionalism, I can only imagine what else is out there and what the Inspector General found about the conduct of senior Bureau leadership. I'd have to say he found out that it would certainly, in my opinion, be damning.
Senator Orrin Hatch earlier today grilling the FBI Director Wray about the rampant bias at the FBI that was uncovered in the IG report. Here now with reaction, Fox News contributor, former Congressman Jason Chaffetz, and attorney David Schoen. Congressman, let me start with you. So Horowitz doesn't make the obvious conclusion. He's not going to second guess. He talks about prosecutorial discretion. This isn't about discretion because there's never been a bigger case of obstruction or in the case of Hillary Clinton. It's a slam dunk for any prosecutor. And if we're going to apply the law like we did to Christian Saucier and others, it should have been applied here, and he should have said it. But with that said, then he lays out, what is a mountain of evidence of how politics drove all of the decision making of the top investigators.
Yeah, no, this is nearly 600 pages and hours of testimony where you just from top to bottom, there was nothing but animus and bias that was laid out there. Now, keep in mind, an inspector general doesn't have prosecutorial powers, but he can make references, and he did indicate that he'd done that. And I think there are a number of people that are going through the process with the Office of Professional Responsibility. You could have a prosecutor involved in potentially bringing criminal charges. It was revealed that Director Comey is now being actually investigated. And the other thing that I would like is, I'm just foreshadowing, I'm guessing here, it's hard to prove why they didn't prosecute something, why they didn't take action. But then if you look at the potential FISA, but if you look at the FISA abuse and you look at the Russia probe, then you take that same cast of characters and say, okay, now they're going to take action. What did they do against Donald Trump? That case may be much easier to prove.
Those same politically biased lead investigators, David Schoen, you pointed out to me, I believe you said it was on page 378 of the report, footnote 181, if my memory serves me well, that even Horowitz was shocked at the idea that the same people that had such a political bias against Trump for Hillary then immediately began the process of going after Trump.
That's right. I think it's page 328, footnote 181. He focuses on that. But this prosecutorial discretion idea is a red herring here, because here's what we know. And by the way, the IG acknowledged he cannot say that political bias didn't affect the decision. He said he found no direct evidence. Here's the issue, though. the entire universe of evidence that the prosecutor had before them was a function of what these investigators, who we now know had proven bias, what they decided to search out, what they decided to focus on, and what they decided to reveal and conceal. So to say the prosecutor made a decision when we know the whole body of evidence prosecutor had it's a red herring. And look, let me say this. One reason I take it so seriously. I'm the son of an FBI agent, and I'm very good friends with Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, professionally and personally. He laid out here what he said sows a doubt and a cloud over the FBI, over the Clinton email investigation, and he said specifically today over the Russia investigation. The fact that you have common agents and now you have a team that Mueller picked when we know how very important the integrity of the investigation is, to handpick a team that's of the same ilk as these other investigators, but more sophisticated and conniving, puts a dark cloud over the entire Mueller investigation.
Congressman Chaffetz, the fact that the same people that rigged Hillary's investigation, that would have put any American in jail, that then immediately, that they are the beginnings, the foundation of the Mueller witch hunt. Does that then render their investigation corrupt from the start? And don't we have the same problem with Mueller in as much as Jeannie Ray and his pit bull, Andrew Weissman, and their atrocious track records? Jeannie Ray was a lawyer for the Clinton Foundation. Weissman, I've laid out his corrupt record, numerous times. What does that do? Are we in the same situation, except it's a little earlier in the process?
Well, we know that the Inspector General for months has been now looking at potential of the FISA abuse, the Russia investigation, and he'll dive further into it. What Congress needs to do tomorrow, which they didn't do with the senators, they need to unmask the FBI agents and attorneys that were engaged. They're highlighted in the report, but they're not named. That'll allow Congress to be able to yank those people in and start doing the interviews. And what Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy and John Ratcliffe are doing in terms of getting the documents out of the FBI, that is absolutely pivotal. Absolutely pivotal.
Do you see crimes here, David, shown by a number of these high-ranking people?
Absolutely. But you know what I'd like to see now? I'd like to see the American public realize how important it is that you've focused on each of these players in the Mueller investigation. And you know what I'd like to see now? I'd like to see their email communications. I'd like to see what Jeannie Ray, who represented Clinton in the email investigation, what does she say about it? Mr. Weissman, who commended Sally Yates for bucking President Trump. What do they say in their emails? Let's get
Andrew Weissman, Mueller's pit bull, from the president's successes, and they are numerous. But look at this. A new Gallup poll survey, satisfaction with U.S. direction now at a 12-year high. Numbers don't lie, facts don't lie. Here with reaction, the author of the new book. It chronicles all the president's success in a little over 500 days. It's called Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback. Amazon.com, bookstores everywhere. Former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Let's go to what it was unfolding today and what we now know about. There were about 15 lead investigators in this case, and at least 5 of them, the lead guys, hated Trump and liked Hillary Clinton. I mean, how could any investigation like that, and the same people got involved in the quote, Trump-Russia probe immediately thereafter? How could there be any legitimacy to Mueller's case if that's the origins of this?
Well, look, I don't think there is any legitimacy, and I think it goes back to something that we need to have a much deeper national debate about. There really is a deep state. That deep state at the Justice Department gave 97% of its donations in 2016 to Hillary Clinton. The language they use, I mean, if you imagine a government employee who used the same language about African Americans or Latinos or Jewish Americans or Muslim Americans that they use in some of those quotes about Trump supporters, you would have screams to high heaven. It's clear that you had an attitude at the very senior levels, not down at the local caseworker, not down at the level of the local offices, but in the Washington headquarters, both in the Justice Department and in the FBI, the senior figures, by any plausible standard, are corrupt. And they clearly were operating on the premise that Hillary was going to get to be president, and therefore anything they said or did was fine because she'd cover it up.
But if they did their job, they would have sent the entire 2016 election into utter chaos. But their animus, their antipathy, their hate, it's downright hatred. Why are you laughing? For President Trump, and you're right, and his supporters, the people that voted for him. Why are you laughing?
Look, if people had done their job, Hillary would have faced jail time in 1978 and 79 when she made $98,000 on a $1,000 investment in cattle futures, which the Wall Street Journal figured out was like a 6 trillion to 1 impossibility.
Okay, well, but hang on a second. So is that, should we now conclude? Should we now conclude there's no equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws?
No.
That Clinton has one standard and the rest of us are screwed?
No, we should conclude that the American left is quite comfortable with corruption because it so deeply despises the American system, whether that is Barack Obama, whether it is the Attorney General under Obama, whether it is Comey or Mueller. All of these people are the same people, and they go back for over a decade. You can go back and find them again and again coming up in ways. I was just with former Congressman Bob McEwen. He was talking about
this is an American election. We're not the former Soviet Union. We're not Venezuela, or at least I didn't think so. But if this stands, and it appears it does, show me where Hillary's going to get the indictment she deserved. And when is this witch hunt going to stop, when it was all predicated on the biggest anti-Trump witch hunters in the world, proven by their statements?
Well, I first of all, I don't know that anybody who is on the corruption side of this is necessarily safe. But it unravels gradually, and it keeps unraveling. It's going to keep unraveling some more. Every week that goes by, we learn new things. They're horrifying things. And frankly, they should remind all of us how close we came to losing the country. That you had between Obama and Clinton a total disregard for the American tradition, a total disregard for the truth, whether they were lying about Benghazi, or they were lying about bin Laden, or they're lying about the Russians, or they're lying about the campaign. These people didn't care because they came out of a left-wing background that assumed
here's
that
my
all
question.
these middle-class values are nonsense.
I will concede the point, and patience is not my greatest virtue. Not that I have a lot of great virtues that you deserve, that people need. But in all seriousness, and I know this is the beginning, are you confident that what should be the equal application of laws, especially with Hillary, and especially again, Mueller's team is as corrupt as Comey's team was going after investigating Clinton? It's the same people. It's all started by the same people, which should render it illegitimate.
I believe that people who want to preserve the rule of law have to keep the pressure up. And I very much admired what Senator Hatch was doing today, what Senator Grassley was doing. I look forward to Congressman Goodlatte tomorrow. People are getting aroused and they're moving.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Speaker, congrats on the success of the book, out in bookstores, Amazon.com. All right, when we come back, the president is calling out these Trump-hating Clinton FBI agents, the people that gave her a pass, Peter Strzok and company. Now, we're going to tell you why and get reaction from Dr. Gorka. Michael Caputo also with us with his personal story involving all this. Straight ahead. For the weekend, the president wrote on Twitter, quote, "Why was the FBI's sick loser Peter Strzok working on the totally discredited Mueller team of 13 angry, conflicted Democrats when Strzok was giving crooked Hillary a free pass, yet telling her lover, lawyer Lisa Page, that we'll stop Trump from becoming president? Witch hunt." Joining us with reaction, former Trump campaign aide Michael Caputo, author of the upcoming book, Why We Fight, Recovering America's Will to Win. Fellow, I guess you could say, Singaporean visitor with me is Fox News national security strategist Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Michael, let me start with you. Apparently, you have recently amended your testimony, and revealed that, in fact, you helped arrange, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, a meeting between what turned out to be an FBI, I guess, spy posing as a Russian that was going to hand over information to your friend, to Roger Stone, and you didn't reveal it before. Why not? Obviously, that's important. Why didn't you reveal that earlier?
Well, I mean, it amounted to about a minute on the phone with the guy whose name he claimed was Henry Greenberg. I assumed he was a Russian from, or at least an Israeli from his accent. But he's offering negative information about Hillary Clinton. Didn't tell me what it was.
You didn't know for sure. You didn't know he was a Russian, for sure.
When I spoke to the Mueller investigation about this, I told them that I assumed he was a Russian, but I thought he was an American citizen. As it turned out, the Mueller investigation already knew that he was a Russian citizen, not an American citizen. That really set off alarm bells for me, because when I disclosed this to the Mueller investigation, unprompted, they knew more about it than I did. They knew he was a Russian citizen, not an American. And
so
to me, it just set off alarms.
What testimony did you have to amend? And now you know it's an FBI spy, apparently.
Right. The House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, I amended my testimony there from July of 2017, amended it last week with the help of my attorney. When my attorney helped me refresh my memory on this before the Senate and the Mueller investigation, he told me I was going to have to do that, even though the investigation at HPSI was closed. So I did that last week.
Just to close the loop on this, and then Roger Stone met with the guy. He wanted $2 million for information on Hillary, and Roger Stone said pound sand.
Right, and neither of us remembered it because it was really something very brief and glancing. It literally bounced off of me to Roger. I feel really bad about asking Roger to meet with this guy to see if he had anything interesting in opposition research. We had no reason to believe he was representing any foreign government. As it turns out, he was representing the FBI.
You know, Dr. Gorka, again, we're back to the spying issue, only on the Trump campaign, and the same investigators that gave Hillary a pass didn't investigate Trump. And when you compare and contrast their methods, it's brutal to Trump, and it's, kid gloves for Hillary. When you hear that, was there one, let me put it this way, is there one member of Congress, if you get a call and they say, I got dirt on your opponent, would you like to hear what I have? It's not illegal to say, yeah, I don't think there's one member of Congress or the Senate that would say, no, I'm not taking your call. I don't want to hear what dirt you have on my opponent. That's a crock. That's not realistic. That's not truth.
Right.
Nor is it illegal.
It's why we have the phrase opposition research, Sean. But on the other hand, anybody would accept that information. But on the other hand, why would the Obama FBI not inform at least Donald Trump that they had suspicions that there were Russians trying to inveigle their way into his campaign? The whole thing stinks. You know my opinion of the IG report. It's an extension of more of a cover-up. It doesn't really get to the so what. But one thing we learned from the IG report is just how politically suffused with bias the Obama DOJ and FBI are. They tried to subvert the course of justice when it came to Hillary. At the highest level, they tried to subvert the court of justice. Right, and then they try to undermine an election.
Yeah, which is the very title of Greg Jarrett's book. Thank you both. Appreciate it. And when we come back, our video of the day, how the media, the left, were so wrong from the get-go about Donald Trump. We've got the video proof. Trump announcing his run for office. Those on the left never thought he'd win the nomination, never thought he'd defeat Hillary Clinton, and they sure as hell didn't think he'd be this successful as president. So tonight's video of the day, we're going to remind our viewers how the left has been so wrong the entire time, as they're wrong today about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
We better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket. Next exclamation point. At real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump. at least I will go down as a president.
Wrong, 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 as usual. And they've lied to you for the last 18 months. They've been wrong on that. Listen, this is only the beginning of the troubles for all of these corrupt people. We're going to keep following it as we have from day one. All right, thanks for being with us. We'll always be fair and balanced. Let not your heart be troubled. There she is, Laura Ingraham. I'm back. Did you miss me?
Now, Hannity, the Singaporeans are wondering, like, you are such a good tipper over there. They're wondering, when are you coming back? I mean,
Some were
surprised.
surprised.
Drops down the
this is a true
Benjamins
story.
for the doorman.
A lot of people like, no, sir, we included some in the. I'm like, yeah, but you only include 10%. So there's some truth to that.
No, Hannity is a very big tipper. I can attest to that, and he puts all the big liberal hotshots to shame. So, Sean, I'm so happy you got back safely. Fantastic show tonight.
Remember, I am a dishwasher. I'm a former dishwasher.
Okay.
And everything else.
All right, got it. Good evening. All right, good evening from L.A. I'm Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle. We're just over 100 miles from the border where a crisis is raging, and tonight we're going to bring you the inside story on the red-hot topic that everybody's talking about. Most people are getting it wrong, of course. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is here exclusively to respond to the controversy surrounding illegal immigrant kids separated from their parents. Plus, Ben Shapiro tells us how Democrats are really the ones exploiting the children as political pawns in this battle over immigration. Also, senators grill the inspector general for what some are saying whitewashing rampant bias at the top of the FBI against the president. And why would the Washington Post, by the way, run a story that blows up the Russian collusion narrative? Roger Stone tells us why. But first, faux liberal outrage in the destruction of the rule of law. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Every country has an obligation to protect its borders and its citizens, particularly one as expansive and as generous as the United States. Now, for too long, immigration law was ignored, frankly, and basically unenforced. Obama tried to kind of enforce it in an ad hoc fashion, but his policies, which I'm going to get to in a moment, only ended up exacerbating our problems at the border. So today we have a full-on crisis. 160% increase in the number of people illegally entering the United States from just last year. Well, the president is responding with a zero-tolerance message, which he reiterated today.
The United States will not be a migrant camp, and it will not be a refugee holding facility. Won't be. You look at what's happening in Europe, you look at what's happening in other places. We can't allow that to happen to the United States, not on my watch.
Now, the president is now doing what we should have been doing all along, prosecuting all border crashers. So if you enter the country illegally, you're breaking the law. The United States is not an open repatriation center where any indigent person in the world feels free to just walk in and assume that all of us will take care of all of them and their families. There's a process, and it has to be respected. Homeland Security Chief Kirstjen Nielsen said this today.
We are a compassionate country that has taken in passes, no more get-out-of-jail-free cards.
Well, consistent with American law, when a party is arrested, your children are either sent to relatives or they become wards of the state. So since more illegal immigrants are rushing the border, more kids are being separated from their parents and temporarily housed in what are essentially summer camps, or as the San Diego Union Tribune described them today, as looking like basically boarding schools. Having lost the argument and, frankly, the last election, liberals have seized on the separated children and turned the entire image into a political weapon, attempting to emotionally manipulate the public perception of immigration enforcement.
Doctor, I've read that you have said that the separation, in your words, you said, is nothing less than government-sanctioned child abuse. Do you really think that this amounts to child abuse?
This does amount to child abuse. And all I can say after talking to the people, watching the people, listening to the people, that the Statue of Liberty, I think, is weeping right now.
They've effectively orphaned thousands of children taken from their parents.
I'm heartbroken by what's happening, and I wonder what this means about the fabric of our country.
Now, why are all their hearts breaking in unison now? Why no tears for the victims of illegal immigrant crime, like the 14-year-old girl raped by Anastasio Eugenio Lopez Fabian just last month? Or did their heart break when another 14-year-old was left to die at the scene of a hit and run by Miguel Ibarra Cerda, a 21-year-old Mexican national? My friends, here's what you're not hearing. The government has very good reasons for separating these children from their family unit. The first being, they may not be the child's family at all. Children have been kidnapped, trafficked, and used by individuals who can then more easily slip into the country. The Obama administration's catch and release policy allowed people with children to enter the United States with only a promise to show up for a later hearing. A lot of them didn't show up, of course. The human traffickers and the drug cartels quickly seized on the weakness and exploited it, routinely trafficking people across the border using children at times as camouflage. Then, when Obama announced his DACA policy in 2012, it became yet another lure for illegal immigrants. The number of unaccompanied minors from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras surged between 2012 and 2014, check this out, by more than 400%. The number of unaccompanied children referred to the Office of Refugee Resettlement tripled between 2012 and 2017, from 13,625 to 40,810, according to the government statistics. From these immigrants come fresh recruits for MS-13 and other gangs that terrorize American cities from Maryland to California. We've talked to the officials who told us the stories. And in June of 2014, even the Washington Post had to admit that the unaccompanied minor surge was, quote, driven in large part by the perception that they will be allowed to stay under the Obama administration's immigration policies. Astoundingly, in the fiscal year 2014, the Border Patrol apprehended 68,400